But what then happened? How do we cover the deficits? How do we cover the poor services that they give to Nigeria?
I think the critical thing is to even establish whether Nigerians are going to stick to these cores. But like Nigerians just quickly adjust to whatever changes that is brought in. So at 16 naira, point 4 kobo, there might be not so much of a change in that, whether or not Nigerians are going to stick to that service. But remember that part of the reasons why the telecommunications sector were clamoring for this tariff hike was that the inflation and the differentials in the market and business terrain, is affecting their operations. So let us, give them the benefit of the doubt and say this 50% tariff hike would cater to the fund deficit that caused us to have strong service disruptions. Remember, they had said if they did not get a leeway from the federal government to increase the tariff hike, that we may be experiencing more service disruptions in the course of the first quarter of the year 2025. But we believe that the NCC has moved ahead to make sure that that is not the case here. So they have given, a 50% clearance for the tariff hike. Now we have to look at the fact that in 2023, the data that was generated to show how much subscriber network performance happened on the telecommunications space, we saw that for calls, the traffic generation was about 205.3 billion minutes, while incoming traffic stood at 203.2 billion minutes. So the calls that Nigerians placed out and those that came in was over 200 billion in the year 2023. Now, when we look at this data for 2023, comparatively at the time where the tariff was lower as opposed to where it's going to be taken to now at 16 naira per minute. We would have to wait a year long or 2 years long for us to now know whether this data dropped or was, or remained stable. But the only hope that we would have as of now is that will these generated funds, be put back into adequate and stable service provision for Nigerians. You also know that apart from making projections as to how much the telecommunications operators may be earning, remember they have all of these freebies that they do on their networks, the extra calls and all of that. That also, how does that eat into the revenue that they are generating? One would ask, if they took that away, would they be able to shore up the financial gap that they have, in their several platforms? But I don't know how to take this, whether this is good or bad. We must holistically look at how this affects Nigerians at the end of the day. But and then again, remember, we also have the habit of saying, oh, it's just a small increase. But you have to look at the cumulative impact of over approximately 100 or 150 million people that are engaging on these service providers.
Well, when you look at the projection of how much Nigerians have had to pay for calls at different points in time, going back to around the year 2001 to 2004, we had to pay as much as about 5,500 naira for those who had phones within their hands within that time. You go to around around the period of 2005 to about 2001 to 2005, the calls were within 45 to 50 naira per minute, and then it graduated towards the time where it dropped to about 13 naira, 12 naira, 13 naira, 14 naira, and then eventually the competition further took it down. Now, you asked a very pertinent question. Can Nigerians make or afford to make calls? Yes, Nigerians are going to make calls. They're going to afford it. They're going to be able to adjust. But the other concern would be, as we are adjusting, with all of the money that will now come, will we still have service disruptions? Will we have drop calls? Will we have getting diverted to other people's phone lines when you're trying to connect with a family or friend, a loved one? And if that happens, contrary to what the network providers are telling us that, oh, when we now have this increase, then we're going to be able to offer quality services. Who argues or who will ensure there is justice meted to all Nigerian customers? Because I can literally place a bet here, that with the increase, we're still going to experience network disruption. We're still going to have drop calls. We're still going to have to send one text and be charged multiple times. All of those money goes back to the network providers. Nobody gets it back in Nigeria. And literally, there's no agency of government or civil society organization that has taken that kind of a case up against the network service providers. So at the end of the day, it is still the Nigerian people who are being exploited on a daily basis in the name of, oh, we want to provide extra services or quality services, and then you're being charged extra. I'd always say Nigerians are ready, Nigerians are willing, and Nigerians will go the extra mile to pay for their bills as long as you're offering them quality services.
Well, the responsibility of making sure that Nigerians enjoy a good service will now rest on the NCC. You've allowed the tariff increase. Are you going to follow through to make sure that the services are good in the country?
The only thing that NCC is going to do is fine.
Yes, but that counts for something.
It doesn't count.
It does count for something. If one of the agencies is hopefully going to generate about 4 trillion naira as the highest grossing beneficiary of this tariff increase, if their service provided is a problem and we find them make the fine about maybe 200 million every other quarter, when you divide 200 million across all the quarters of the year, somebody would rather keep that 200 million and invest it in his business. So the difference would be, does the NCC have what it takes to say, hey guys, we have allowed you to increase the tariff, now we expect and demand that service delivery in the country for the users are excellent, that top notch, to the best of their abilities of the telecommunications operators. Now we see in our heads, we know the different service providers, we know who is leading, we know who is where. This does absolutely take their earnings far above what it has been in recent years. But this is it. I think the most important part is Nigerians should be aware, because Francis, you also need to consider the fact that a lot of Nigerians don't also know what goes on. We just know that, oh, I need airtime, I recharge with 500 naira, I recharge with 1,000, I make calls, when it is finished, I do it again. A lot of people don't even know how much these telecommunication operators charge per minute of calls. Maybe all of us know that text messages were 4 naira per, because you would always see that. But now that the tariff has been increased, how much are we going to be paying for text messages? We've accounted for how much the calls will be. But how much would the text messages be? So maybe we're seeing 8 naira at 50% increase. So maybe 8 naira or 7 naira, whatever it is, we'll soon find out. But it's important for, this is more like an awareness. Let's all be aware that changes are coming on board. Someone says, but I just recharged. What happened? The tariff has been increased. So you won't talk for longer than you used to talk for a particular bandwidth of airtime. But that's it for that particular story. The increase has eventually been endorsed by the NCC. Let's see the window of time that it actually takes these agencies to implement. But we know that this tariff hike will favor a lot of the big players in the industry. What happens to the smaller players, the telecommunications? They still have to buffer up and stay. But like it is business, some people earn big and some people still will struggle as a result of this. But moving on from that particular story this morning, let's get to, I don't know if I want to take this UK. Okay, I think I'm going to keep it last. Let's go to World Bank, and this is particularly troubling, especially looking at our corruption profile globally and on the continent. Now, the World Bank Group has announced a 30-month debarment of 2 Nigerian companies, Viva Atlantic Limited and Technology House Limited, alongside their managing director and chief executives, for fraudulent, collusive, and corrupt practices linked to national social safety net programs in Nigeria. Now, remember that we have been talking so much about whether we just have an empty net that we throw in these social safety net monies, but we can't account for it. We saw a lot of activities during the former minister's time, talking about Dr. Betta Edu. Lots of monies were put in there, but you say we are sending it out. Where is it going to? Remember that most of these monies are borrowed from the World Bank. And now the World Bank is saying, we lend Nigeria the money. Then you come, it is not judiciously used.
And it's stolen.
Yeah, and it's stolen. So part of the reasons why these persons, Norman Didam, has been taken off, disbarred from the, from doing business with the World Bank is because they are accused of corrupt practices within the National Safety Net Project in Nigeria. And that's a huge sum. But I think the crux here is now the World Bank has moved ahead. Give us a couple more hours and we'll hear that the EFCC is up onto them.
Well, I won't be surprised when the EFCC goes after the companies that have been highlighted by the World Bank report. And of course, that clearly goes to the conversation of how Nigerian agencies will literally wait until some other person points them the right way. Because as an anti-graft agency, one would expect that they have a wherewithal to investigate key sectors, especially, remember sometime last year, the World Bank had demanded from the Central Bank of Nigeria a certain aspect of the funds, just leaving about $6 million to be left in the care and custody of the Central Bank of Nigeria, but they took back the rest of the money because of corruption allegations, because of the fact that most of the monies that were sent in could not be accounted for, what projects they were used for, and it goes all the way down to the conversation that everything about poverty alleviation in Nigeria from time immemorial has always been a conduit pipe for people to steal, a conduit pipe for people to enrich themselves and their families and their cronies at the detriment of the average Nigerian. Yesterday I saw the Nigerian government's release about the number of Nigerians who are going to receive 75,000 naira each, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The first thing that came to my mind was the issue of Dr. Betta Edu and the different states that were to be disbursed, finances to under the social investment scheme of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That didn't happen and has not happened up until now. And then I asked, for the longest time, Nigerians have consistently asked that question: how many people within us are receiving this money? I remember, I think sometime last week, I read something from the from the federal government saying that most of the Nigerian people, the poorest of the poor, don't have bank accounts. And then that led me to ask the question, how are you able to reach out to the poorest of the poor who don't have bank accounts?
We take the money to them directly.
How? And Nigerians are not seeing that happen. They're not. When you look at the fact that government would would spend 100 million, they would spend 10 million to throw a party to give out 1,000 or 1 million naira to over 200, 300, 400 or 500 Nigerians, there is literally no way such an activity or such an event will go under the carpet without Nigerians knowing.
Well, there's a lot of concern where this is. We continue to stand out where the rest of the world is concerned, especially to all of these corruption allegations. But let's see what happens. How does the World Bank even take this beyond the fact that they have been disbarred? Because we are looking at discrepancies with a certain 2018 procurement and subsequent contract processes. So this is because a key question here is the clause of monitoring. When these monies are sent out and sent to Nigeria, what is the amount of monitoring that is done to ascertain if this revenues, if these resources rather have been judiciously used for what they ought to be used for? But you just see diversion. People just come, divert it, put it in account that some will die and leave and all of those things, buy houses that they can't use. But it's good that, and as a global institution, it's good to show that they are monitoring, what they have sent out their monies to do. And this, I think this is more of a capital instruction for Nigeria. It's not that we can just borrow these monies and put it to a conduit pipe and then destroy it. But we are seeing these fraudulent and collusive actions. The first question is, does this affect other agencies of government being able to access social safety net projects from the World Bank for Nigerians? Remember that these projects are targeted to the poorest of the poor people in the society, but they never really get, because Francis, when this money comes down, they divide it to 50,000 naira, like you said, 75,000 naira. But look at the bulk detail of how much was sent by the World Bank. If they were to judiciously even share it, people will have lump sum enough to be able to invest in business, invest in agriculture. But you come out every now and then and give paltry sum. Sometimes you say you're paying 50,000 for 6 months. Some people will receive 50,000 for 2 months and they never hear the rest. And someone goes to doctor the data and do a repeat debit and credit for the remaining 4 months, and and shows that these things were done. So it's good that monitoring is strongly put in place to ensure that these kinds of things don't repeat themselves. But the question is, do we have the willing government infrastructure to run that?
Well, first off, all the social investment programs of the Nigerian government have not met with the standard. When you look at the focus, when you look at the vision, when you look at the purpose, why the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and other organizations are giving to Nigeria, you're looking at first not just being able to establish families, but also being able to sustain them to a point where they can stand on their own and not fall back into poverty. I remember when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board, he talked about not just being able to leave Nigerians out of poverty, but to ensure that they stay out of poverty. That is the essence of social investment programs, and every other social investment program in Nigeria falls short of the vision, the mission, the purpose of actually fulfilling that. Because if you're giving somebody 75,000 naira in Nigeria as a social investment scheme, and you say, oh, that person is going to use it, how much can 75,000 naira do in business? And I know there have been those arguments. Oh, there is a business you can start with 25,000. There's a business you can start with 50,000.
Let's go and sell eggs.
Yeah, you can go to the market and sell eggs, or you can go sell vegetables. You can go do periwinkle. You can, just the normal daily consumables. But
what happens to the person who has a creative talent and wants to invest?
Now, even those consumables, one day of you not being able to sell, remember they're perishable. One day of you not being able to sell can destroy goods worth 50,000, 20,000, 30,000. And how does the person get to balance out when that happens? So we make social investment programs without planning for sustainability. First off, it's not even enough, and then we don't have the sustainability plan to run into a couple of months or a year to a point where we say, okay, and then we don't even have the monitoring and evaluation tools to ascertain how many of these beneficiaries have been able to exist in the line of businesses that we said we are helping them, especially when you're talking about women traders, for instance. How many of those traders are still in business? I know we will now go back to talk about, the people are not able to manage the funds, but for somebody to be able to first and foremost have the clear distinction between a business fund and a house fund, there has to be that basic finances to take care of the home front. Otherwise, there is literally nobody in the world, including the likes of Aliko Dangote, who would sit down in the house and die of starvation when he knows there is money in his business.
True that.
He might not have money in his personal account or personal money, but as long as there's money anywhere, he's going to use that and take care of himself and his family. So these are things the government are not considering oftentimes when they're starting social investment programs. They're not sustaining those programs. So it is going to be a major problem. And we'll keep seeing, unfortunately, we'll keep seeing a whole number of Nigerians falling back into poverty, even the ones that the government claimed they have been able to help. I remember one of the conversations that came up during the Dr. Betaidu's time when she went to Calabar, Cross River State, and 20,000 naira, 50,000 naira were given to women. And the question came, even the business of selling, of
Pure
taking
water.
sachet water cannot be sorted with, 20,000 naira, because you're looking at buying blocks, you're looking at, buying containers or coolers. As at last year, how much was a cooler?
Even the small ones that we're taking
So,
to work
it-
is
it-
like
it's-
3,000.
So you can imagine. So if I spend, you give me 20,000, and you spend, and then that's on one hand, and you spend 10,000 naira to do the placard, the big checks to give me 20,000 naira. Who is fooling who in the country?
Children.
So we've got to be a lot more humane, a lot more innovative,
Innovative, yeah.
a lot more sincere and transparent in the social safety programs or the social investment programs of the government, whether it's at the state level or at the federal level, because that's the only way we're going to help. I would always say, across the streets of Nigeria, there are a lot of Nigerians, young and old, who are willing to have a business of their own, to have, something that they go out to do every day diligently. Not every Nigerian, in fact, if we are to look at the percentage of Nigerians who are twisted in their mind and their thinking to think, ritual killing or yahoo or whatever is the best way for you to go to make money, they're not up to 1% or 2%. But what happens to the larger population of young people who are willing to work? I sit on bikes driven by graduates. I enter tricycles driven by graduates. I enter taxis driven by graduates, minibuses driven by graduates, master degree holders. Is it a bad thing for them to do that? No. But are they willing to do something extra to add to what they're doing? Yes, we talk about multiple streams of income. But when they can't even save from their minibus business, their keke business, or their bike business to be able to invest into a business, and the government is not providing the enabling environment for that to happen, how are they going to have those multiple streams of income? But these are the people who pay the most taxes back to the government.
Of course, that's even another conversation entirely. But we need to do better, and this is a smear on, generally. First of all, why the World Bank is even reacting to this is that this is a smear on its national, safety net projects generally, and they do not want that kind of smear on the work that they do. And it's also a smear on what Nigeria is doing in the humanitarian space. It's not such a good work that is going on there. Better Edu came, gave a lot of publicity around what was done in the humanitarian ministry. After her suspension, the agency went dark, and now, someone else has been appointed to that responsibility. But so far, so good. What are they doing? And like Francis said, we need transparency to be involved in these things. If you say you're giving out social safety net to Nigerians that are unbanked, how do you disburse these monies? When do you disburse them? That we are not hearing the tales of the federal government. It's such a sad situation. But then we'll move on now to Lagos State, and a development out of the ousting of the Speaker of the State House of Assembly over a week ago has seen Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu pledging to work harmoniously with the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, speaking about Senator Mojisola Merenda, Honorable, I beg your pardon, Mojisola Merenda, to deliver policies for the benefit of all Lagosians. Of course, Mojisola Merenda had been, moving around to visit the key stakeholders in the political structure of Lagos State, to introduce herself, get absorbed, know what to do, different from, her predecessor that was ousted from that particular position. But now, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who she also went to pay homage to, has said that he will work closely with her. Of course, the Speaker was received by the Governor and his deputy. Speaking of Dr. Bafemi Hamzat, we're looking at some of the key things in terms of policy direction, accenting to bills, and just a smooth relationship between, Mojisola Meranda and the state government in Lagos State at this time, as opposed to all of the wonders that they experienced and animosity reported of Obasa during his time as the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Lagos.
Well, I'd said all of this is just a power play, and it's politics. Probably somebody feels the comment made by Obasa it's in preparation for his gunning for the number one seat in the state in 2027, and somebody who doesn't want him to even get to that position in the first place, just taking the bold step and the early actions to ensure that Obasa does not make it to the mansion or the Lagos State House as the governor of the state. Now, of course, different political dynamics will play out. Literally, when you see politicians already gunning for 2027, already making plans, already campaigning for, the support of people to vote for the respective offices which they are eyeing in 2027. As much as we want to say the obvious truth, which is that this is coming way too early, it is never too early for politicians. Sanwo-Olu would definitely want to have a replacement, but then, like I asked earlier, is it going to be Obasa, or even Obasa stays in power as the state house speaker up until the period where election begins? What are the possibilities of him having a strong influence and a strong impact and being the strongest contender that probably might unseat whoever the choice of the governor as his successor would be or might be as at that time. So it's a drama. At the end of the day, there are laws to guide, there are laws that govern, there are laws that Obasa can turn to in order to seek justice and seek redress. But it literally would always seem like you give a dog a bad name in order to be able to hang it, and that's what the Lagos State House of Assembly have done for Obasa, and then of course, hence his dilemma with the leadership of the state.
Well, those in Lagos absolutely understand what the scheme of play is. He's been largely accused, even by the governing council, for Lagos State government to have been high-handed in his approach. It's alleged that several warnings were given, but let's wish that she has a smooth time working with the state government, working with Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And part of the key things here is that at the time that Mudashiru Obasa was ousted last week, there were conversations as to the fact that, he had, played his politics against the lane of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. But then the office of the governor had come out to say, hey, look, the governor has absolutely nothing to do with the impeachment of the Speaker of the House. It was the members of the House that came together unanimously and decided that they didn't want Obasa's leadership anymore over the House. That is what the state government in Lagos said, and this is what the House of Assembly did. But with its new leader now, let's see where she takes the state house to, and how better it will be. Remember that Obasa has served for quite a while, so he has had his fair share of the scoop of what proceedings and the power feels like at the state house. Let's see how well Miranda does in this position. That's a lot of trust that has been imposed on her, and let's see how that goes. But let's move to my pick story for the segment. Somehow it's light-hearted, it's my story, and I just like it. So remember when we talked about the UK-based Nigerian who replaced the shoes and wristwatch to Kemi Badenoch's brother? We have a lot of things happening in this country. Well, but now a Nigerian based in the United Kingdom, James Akinwande, has replaced a pair of shoes and a wristwatch allegedly stolen from Kemi Badenoch's brother by officers of the Nigerian police force. Now, of course, remember that Kemi Badenoch is the leader of the UK's Conservative Party. Of course, these were claims that she made in an interview recently that caused a lot of uproar in Nigeria. Now, I mean, her remarks about Nigeria and its leadership drew a lot of mixed reaction. And here goes our brother Akinwande. He recorded a video showing him purchasing a pair of shoes and a wristwatch in a UK store. Visited the Conservative Party headquarters where he handed the items to security personnel to be delivered to Badenoch. Now, we also see, now I'll quote what Akinwande wrote at the end of his short video. On behalf of every proud Nigerian who felt genuinely hurt by those unfounded, disparaging remarks about the Nigerian police, we buy back the stolen shoes and watch. I hope it fits though. Now, this is a serious thing, because you want to ask the perspective of Akinwande at this point. He's saying, hey, look, we may all be in the UK, but some of us love our country. And for all of those disparaging comments, it was quite a tussle of conversation in the social media space. But he says, hey, we ain't taking this line down. We return your shoes and your wristwatch.
Well, looking at some of the reactions Nigerians have given to Kemi Badenoch and her comments since she became the leader of the Conservative Party in the UK, I, for one, am of the opinion that we've given too much attention.
Too much attention.
Secondly, these acts by the Nigerian, I'm tempted to ask him, whose side are you on?
No, he's on the side of Nigeria.
No. Are you really on the side of Nigerians? Because we have to be sincere with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be just. Even as we're sitting down here, this morning, a Nigerian is probably being harassed and extorted by a man or a personnel of the Nigerian police force. Was Kemi Badenoch wrong in saying her brother's items were stolen? If she said it and it happened, then she has every right to talk about it. Now, we also have a right to respond. And how are we to respond? We don't respond by condemning Kemi Badenoch and saying, oh, you're not supposed to wash a dirty linen out in the public space, because our dirty linens are everywhere in the world. We have foreigners living in Nigeria. They don't experience it, but they see it happening every day. We have foreign news organizations or media organizations who have representative in Nigeria, and everything that happens is out in the public space. So you can't go after Kemi Badenoch for saying the obvious truth that she and her family have experienced from the hands of corrupt, in quote, I like to use that word, corrupt police personnel. Because a right-thinking police officer will not arrest somebody and then steal from that person. So was she right to talk about the corruption? Was she right to talk about the unprofessional conduct? Yes, she was within her right. In Nigeria, we all talk about those things. We talk about the fact that some members of the Nigerian police force are criminally minded. Even the Nigerian police force leadership has spoken to that fact. They are moving to weed out these criminal elements, which of course Nigerians applaud them for. But does that justify anybody, now painting the wrong picture of Nigeria? That is not painting the wrong picture. She is just saying the truth. Now, I would expect the Nigerian government, I would expect a Nigerian who is patriotic to say, look, yes, we know these things are happening, but it's everywhere. There is literally no country in the world that you don't have one or two incidences where a police personnel have misbehaved. But why is Nigeria different? Because us, it seems like rather than, improve, we have a lot more officers wanting to join the corrupt ones. So it makes it look like a greater percentage of the Nigerian police force, or on a daily basis, you're having increased number of police personnel jumping on the bandwagon of being corrupt. So, Kemi Badenoch did the right thing by speaking. And so, these Nigerian who is trying to return the reported stolen items, what is his
See, Francis, I agree with you that Kemi Badenoch has a right to say what she said. Every Nigerian does have a right to say what they said. But we also need to have these conversations in context. You're looking at the personality and the position where these statements are made. Because now a lot of Nigerians reacted to this in terms of it's a bold, audacious statement to keep I'll still use the word disparaging. It's just a bold attempt to just keep talking down at Nigeria. We know that we have our systemic issues, just as the UK has the systemic issues. For God's sake, Kemi Badenoch is sitting on trying to unearth years long of gang rape issues in the United Kingdom as it is. Every system does have its corruption that has been covered up by, one system or the other. Nigerians are just saying, hey, in whatever you do, take us out of your mouth. Now, remember that Kemi Badenoch is not the first Nigerian in a conspicuous position in the world. We have them, but we do not keep having these kinds of issues. Yes, maybe she's had a hurt, but she can always move away from it. And like, for me, everybody's right. Akinwande is also right. Akinwande also feels like, hey, look, I'm a Nigerian. I know my country. If the issue is the stolen watch and the stolen shoe, we return it. And you can say maybe it's just a comic relief. It's something that he's just doing for fun. But there are people that are absolutely patriotic to this country called Nigeria, that in spite of what they experience, in spite of what they've seen, I mean, you're looking at people that were arrested on the heel of the hashtag End Bad Governance, people that were arrested on the heel of the NSAS. We're talking of more gregarious things that were done to people as opposed to just having one or two issues. Talking about, her family was a middle class family. They continue to gradually get poorer and poorer. These systems happen everywhere in the world because of policy directions. So you now, have this conversation. We've had people that have been worse hits by the corruption in the security architecture of this country, but they will still stand tall and firm while they are, speaking to, authorities, speaking the truth to government about the ills, but they don't see. Perspective is everything. Tone is everything. The approach is everything. And that is the, more bitter concern with this. But like we said, we all established that she has a right to expression however she so pleases. And I also want to say that Akinwande has a right, for doing this. But you expect, that Kemi Badenoch doesn't take anything lying down. So I'm absolutely waiting for her response.
I'm not waiting for a response.
I am waiting.
I'm not waiting for a response. But here's the thing. If Kemi Badenoch was not a leader in the UK and she made this comment, will Nigerians react the way we react?
Same point as mine.
Okay. So why are we reacting the way we are reacting?
Because it's just like having the president of the United States every now and then say Nigeria this. It makes the statement important.
Okay. So now, the statement is important because it's coming from a Nigerian who has gone through the struggle, who has experienced poverty, who has experienced the institutional decays, who has experienced the insecurity, who has experienced the ethnic bigotry and the divisive sentiments that has crippled the country and kept us away from, development all round. And that person is speaking to the powers, speaking to the authorities, speaking to the world.
She was just airing her views.
She's speaking to the world because as a leader, she's airing her mind, right? But that mind is not being spoken in her closet. So she's literally speaking to the world. But here's what I expect. I expected Nigerians to do. I expected the Nigerian government to do. The things that Kemi Badenoch is speaking about, are they true? Yes. What can we do to change the narrative? That is the angle I had expected Nigerian government. I had expected Nigerians to come out. Now, no matter how patriotic we are, no matter how much we want to show, our allegiance and loyalty to the country, Nigeria, we cannot move away from the fact that these things have happened. They're still happening. And we need to, as a country, as a matter of urgency, address these issues. Institutional decay might be everywhere, but we also have to deal with our own. And if we must deal with our own, then the first step is telling ourselves the truth. And there is something we are all forgetting. Kemi Badenoch might be the UK Conservative leader now, but he's a Nigerian. And she has Nigerian blood. And she has been used to the mud-slugging, the name-calling, the image-tainting ways of Nigerian politicians. So what if this is our Nigerian blood, our Nigerian political blood speaking? So it all comes back to what we put into Kemi Badenoch. That's what is playing out. In Nigeria, during elections, we call our opponents all sort of names. We insult them. We abuse them. We abuse their parents. We abuse their family. We abuse everything about their existence. We abuse even their community. I take us back to a conversation I had some time with the former member of the House of Representatives and former Speaker of the Kwara State House of Assembly, Barrister Onofio Luke. And I like to quote him. He said, it is only in Nigeria. In fact, in Nigeria, the moment you decide you want to go for the smallest position as a councillorship position that is when you know that the father you have known for 30 years was never your father. That your mother got pregnant somewhere else and brought you to your father. Is it true? No. But these are things that politicians employ to try and tarnish the next person's image, to try and paint a wrong narrative about the next person who is their opponent in the eyes of the people. So this could be the Nigerian political factor in the blood that Kemi Badenoch has, which is a Nigerian blood, speaking up. So rather than focus all of our attention in responding, even that the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria would pay attention to what she's saying, let us pay attention to how we can make our institutions better.
We are working on that, Francis. I promise you. I mean, IGP Okpejokun said that when he came on board, several other people are saying that they're going to work on it. But I'm even saying, while Kemi Badenoch faces her business in the Conservative Party of the United Kingdom, Nigerians also face the work that we have at hand to make our own nation better. She has been clear that, she doesn't want to be identified with the Nigerian story. Everybody should leave the lady alone. Just concentrate. We can't keep going to picket at everything that she says. Anything she says, once you begin to disregard that narrative, it waters down the popularity of her work or whatever her statements are. That's just it. But this is it this morning for this particular segment. A good Samaritan. I know Francis doesn't understand what Akinwande did, but a good Samaritan. This is more like him on behalf of the Nigerian police force apologizing for the theft that occurred several years ago. So, and it's strictly designers that
he should also apologize to the multitude of Nigerians who have been abused, who have been harassed, who have been stolen.
Why do you have a problem with Akinwande? I don't see where your issue is with Akinwande.
It should not, because if you want to correct it wrong, if you want to set the record straight,
he's not setting he is not Ajik Begwetokun, neither is he the president of Nigeria.
He's not the president.
He's
not the vice president. He's not the minister of foreign affairs. He's not the ambassador in the UK representing Nigeria. He's a Nigerian. We appreciate him. He's a brother, right? We appreciate him for all the works and his spirit of patriotism. But here, if 1 million Nigerians in the last 1 year, for instance, have been abused, have been stolen from by the men and women of the Nigerian police force, and you're waking up to return a shoe and other items of the Kemi Badenoch's brother, who obviously, by the way, has money to buy all of those things, just because the sister spoke up. If Nigerians speak up, will he also take the steps?
I don't see. There's really no point to put Akinwande under the bus. He has no business being under the bus here. He has done what he has done. He has done what he has done. In his mind, and I think, like what I said, well, you're also free to hold your perspective to this, but I'm saying that the character in question, the person, the authority making the statement is what empowers the statement. It's not opposed to like all of us Nigerians that have had issues with the Nigerian police force. It is who is speaking that authenticates the statement. So we can even still relate with what Akinwande has done. And like I said, this also can be like, it can be a clout conversation. It can be a clout move by Akinwande himself. But don't forget, the main crux here is that the shoe and the wristwatch has been returned. And like I would say, and that's just on a lighter note. And like I would say, let us all get out of Kemi Badenoch's hair. If she wants to stay in our hair, she can stay there and we don't pay attention. I think that's just the most important thing, because there's really no point. Every time she breathes, we try to pull her. Every time we breathe, she tries to pull us. Everybody, we have serious concerns in both nations of the world, and we're all important. And so let's leave it at that. But we'll take a breather now. When we return, we'll be delving into another segment of conversation on this Tuesday morning. Rise and shine. Stay with us.
Rise and shine. rise and shine.
Your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood, and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
rise and shine.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. And now this is still Rise and Shine. We're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. We're heading to Tuesday International. Let's talk what's happening in the international space. And I think the biggest story, and I was asking yesterday, I said, what did Donald Trump do to X? Because everywhere I turned on X, all I saw was Trump. I don't know if we were able to write other things on Twitter yesterday, on X rather. But I think the name Twitter has it just takes on X yesterday, Bob.
Well, even Elon Musk in recent time have been, giving us memes and asking whether we should return to X or we should stay with X or return to Twitter.
Return to Twitter.
Maybe there's a plan somewhere in his mind to get
return
us back
to
to
Twitter. Like the name just, which one is X? X what? X-Men. X handle. X what exactly?
X origin.
X origin. Okay. Well, still looking at it. We have the big man back in the Oval Office. For those that are excited about, Donald J. Trump being the 47th president of the United States, being stated into that office for a second and final term. Those that are excited are excited. Those that will not have it will not have it. But yeah, of course, the president, Trump, is back. And like he said, I think the most critical conversation here is what he said he's going to be doing from day one.
Well, looking at something that I think I would literally want us to have a laugh this morning. The official Trump, as any one of us, I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you must have seen the official Trump portrait. And then there is another thing that we need to see, the official Trump meme. How many of us have seen that? How many of us know what it looks like? I mean, it's...
The president has an official meme. Wow. He's really, what would I call it, 21st century survey.
Very, very.
He's not out of touch with the social media space, how it works, how to understand it, how to make use of it. Because, I mean, I was listening to him speak and he was talking about how he took advantage of TikTok for his campaign in this just concluded elections. And that turned around the numbers for him as they had 30% increase rates with the youth, voting as a result of, taking the campaign to the youth where they are present, right? That's like all the Gen Zs, holla, we are present here. But yeah, it's such great move that we're seeing. So we'll just put up the official portrait of the 47th president of the United States of America. And now there's a lot of conversation that this is coming off the mock shot from his, barrage of indictments, and court time for all of the cases he had been accused with. So this is a BBC response. Said the new image of Trump has drawn comparisons with his 2023 mock shot. The now famous image was used by Trump to fundraise for his campaign. Okay. Well, this is the president's image back in 2017 when he first became the president, in which he smiles broadly at the camera. But there is a difference with his return. Now, is President Donald Trump's official portrait. And this is more like, this particular portrait is giving, I am coming for you. This is the way it has been interpreted. So if you get to X and see the reactions to his official portrait, it's giving a lot of vindictive move right there. But whether that's official vindictive move or not, but I think a lot of people also like this.
Well, I think a lot of people like all of the pictures, but for me, the one that speaks volume is the meme, the official meme of President Donald Trump. Okay, for me, that is like the picture of the century that has the much weight that interprets all of the energy that Trump is bringing on board. All of the energy that Trump is bringing on board as the 47th, U.S. president. You're looking at the fierceness in his posture. You're looking at the strength in his posture. you're looking at the battle readiness in his posture, you're looking at what that would mean for the US and of course the rest of the world, literally. So I think Donald Trump is going to be a fight person this time around, more than he has ever been within the first administration that he led the American people. And that is, I don't know if the world is even ready, and I don't know if, people are ready for what is going to come. Now, we've even seen some world leaders saying, okay, his emergence is going to put an end to the Israel-Gaza war instantly. And remember, President Donald Trump did say that once he comes on board, is going to end the Israel-Gaza war in just one day.
Well, there's a lot of conversations and expectations around his coming back into the Oval Office and into power as the president of the free world. There's a lot of refer to him as. There are expectations around what he's coming to do, and I must say, yes, his portrait speaks a lot to how present he is in the narrative of his personality, the narrative of the expectations of people in his second coming. And also, if you listen to, his statements, his policies, the things he hopes to do, this picture just describes him exactly. I mean, Donald Trump in his second coming is looking to recover certain portions of, historical sites that belonged to the United States that were gifted out, and several other things. I mean, he's more like, in the eyes of some persons, looking for trouble in Canada with the tariff conversation. So this is a very depictive picture of the President of the United States. But just imagine with me for a moment that you walk into all of the public buildings, government buildings in the United States. When you get to the international airports, everywhere you turn, and this is the exact image that you see. What comes to your mind when you see Mr. President? We'll take fragments of his speech yesterday, and I must say that Donald Trump's inaugural speech was baked in a lot of conversation. It was baked in a lot of conversation yesterday, and a lot of expectations. A lot of the things that he said are things that have to be properly interpreted, or else it can also rub off on some people wrong. Now, Donald Trump has returned to the presidency January 20 with an inauguration ceremony in Washington, D.C., that makes him the first president to serve non-consecutive terms since the 1980s. Now, we see that millions of Americans watched this particular inauguration on television as the 78-year-old Trump took the oath of office for a new 4-year term in the White House, while former President Joe Biden, 82, left the presidency after a single term yesterday. Of course, we have all of the conversations and reactions generally around Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and all of that. But one of the key things that Donald Trump has promised is the golden age of America. And he has said that as of yesterday, the golden age of America has returned. Now they're looking forward to flourishing and thriving across all sectors. Quite a number of things that he said. He has also said, now this concern, when you look at the conversation of Donald Trump, you want to compare it side by side with how this has an impact on the rest of the world. One of the things that the president has talked about is that the United States is going to go back to being a productive nation. So they're going to go back to digging oil and refining and exporting oil, not as a now this is as against resting on the reserves of oil that they've had as a nation. And one would think now the conversation about going digging oil and all of that bordered around the whole green energy concept that the rest of the world has been trying to push in the last couple of years. So there's quite a number of retractions that he's making. There are things that his first tenure had put his first tenure had set the ball rolling. that the Biden administration revoked, and here comes Trump again. He has enacted those things. My concern for the Trump administration is after Trump's 4 years, then what next?
Well, that is something we literally will have to wait. But there are some areas that Trump covered that are of critical concern. For me, I'm looking at the fact that he has signed an order to pull the U.S. out from the World Health Organization. That means we're going to have a whole lot of drop in terms of funding that goes to the Global Health Agency. You're also looking at the fact that this one was expected, it was anticipated, it was much talked about, especially when you look at some of the reasons why the outgone president, Joe Biden, did the numbers of pardon he did within the last days in his office, he had in office. We've seen President Donald Trump pardoning over 1,500 Capitol rioters. Remember the January 2021 Capitol riot that happened in the U.S. and literally shocked the world to its foundation, also throwing up conversations about the level of violence that bedevils the U.S. electoral system or elections, as the case may be. That is another part. And of course, you're also looking at another thing that was projected is extension of 75 days given to TikTok, the grace period, obviously because of how much of support he had from the platform or the social media generally. Remember, at some point in time, Trump had a lot of issues because of the tweets and attempts by different social media platforms to censor some of the aggressive things he was tweeting and social media texting about. And TikTok, on the other hand, seems to have offered him that opportunity to dance off and embrace the younger population and get liked by the younger population. Remember the video I talked about? It's just a Trump dancing, I don't care, I'm gonna do what I want to do attitude. And that's the exact attitude is showing in the pictures that is now going to be the official picture of the U.S. president. There's a lot to be expected from President Donald Trump, but the dynamics are just what we cannot begin to fathom.
Oh, yes. Remember that Donald Trump is referred to as one of the most unpredictable presidents, and that is what he has also reenacted. The intention is to stay unpredictable. You're not really sure where he's going to hit you from, how he's going to hit you. And I think that just, increases the vibe around his dynamism as a leader of the world. A lot of people have argued that Donald Trump is not, he's not your everyday politician. He just brings the energy of the business community into how he's running the Oval Office. But let's give voice to the president's first, official speech as president of the United States.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. the vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn from weeks ago without even a token of defense. They're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Okay, so some key things that have stood out for me for the in the Trump speech. I'm going back all the way to 18 December 2024, where Senator Mike Lee brought up the America First Act in the Parliament, and of course, part of the formulations or the provisions of the act sought to ensure that illegal migrants, or illegal aliens as they choose to call them, people who enter the U.S. illegally, are not able to access the different insurance packages, the different social health packages that have been provided for the less privileged and struggling members of the American community. And then it also spoke to the Biden's administration's inability to keep the illegal migrant out. And of course, Senator Mike Lee also alluded to the fact that the Biden's administration, contrary to his claim that immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally are not able to access these different government programs, are actually getting, finding their way around to access it at the detriment of the American people who actually need it. And then you're also going to look at the U.S. First policy and the slogan, which goes all the way to the American First Committee, which was a non-interventionist pressure group against the American entry into the World War II, which emphasized American nationalism and unilateralism in international relations. So that is what President Donald Trump is re-echoing at this point. And it goes back to things that we have seen when an American, it's at the core of the American people. When an American is in a country, for instance, even if it's one person, you find the U.S. government making every effort, frantic efforts, taking steps, moves to ensure the safety and the safe return of that individual. That's compared to other countries of the world. I mean, Nigerians will literally wake up and ask you, if this was a Nigerian, will the government of Nigeria go all the way out? But we can also argue that Nigeria is learning and Nigeria is growing. But from what Trump is saying, it literally seems like, and is expected that once, as he has taken over the mantle of leadership, you're going to see consistent progression towards the interests of the American people as against the interests of Donald Trump. But that is also something that is hard and difficult for most people to believe. Remember, he's being already accused of coming in and wanting to promote oligarchy in the U.S. and then take the wealth of the generality of the U.S. people into the hands of a privileged few, which is why if you look at, the guest list, for instance, for the 2025 inauguration of President Trump, and back to his first, and that was 2018 or 2017 or thereabout, it is completely different. The number of celebrities who showed up here were a lot more compared to the first one. And then the number of support he got from the high and mighty other members of the society, the likes of Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Snoop Dogg, and the likes of them, was still on the increase. So the question will now be, is President Donald Trump America First message about the elite member of America society, or is it going to be about every American citizen?
I think a perspective we can also look at is that is a Donald Trump trying to take advantage of the elite society in the United States to make wealth and access available to all, because he's bringing the haves into places of authority. First of all, maybe at the back of his mind, you have enough money, Elon Musk, as the richest man in the world, to be bothered about the income of the United States. Go get in there and let's make the tech world something that we can all leverage on. He brings these key people into place, leverages on their net worth, and makes the United States great again. You have to give him time before you can say that he wants to make the government about the rich, about the elite. But that doesn't look like a Donald Trump. You have to wait to make him, we all have to wait to see him make the United States effective, which is his goal. One of the things that he inundated in his speech also is about, creating an agency of government that looks into the activity of government, so he's not expecting that things go out of hand. Joe Biden, former president of the United States, has the right to feel the way he feels, because in his words, he was warning the people of America ahead about the oligarchy, about a descent to the democracy of the land. But this is Donald Trump coming and saying, hey, we don't know where the United States has been all of this while. We are about to restore the trust of the United States people in the United States government. So there is a lot of conversation about this. But in having all of these conversations, we're trying to tie it around the the democracies of the rest of the world, the leadership structure and pattern that we see around the rest of the world. We'll just take some more bites out of his speech and some more of the very decisive executive orders that he has already signed just after giving up this inauguration speech.
To provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural, and very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states, and the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal, and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law.
Quite a number of really key policy directions there, a lot of which he has already appended his signature to as we speak. But I will start from communication as a media expert. I'm talking about reinstating freedom of speech in the United States and not allowing that sole responsibility or the states to weaponize, speech, as it were. Now, that is a problem that we are experiencing globally. If you look at the impact even in Nigeria, remember that just a week ago, Serap moved a case against Nigeria in the ECOWAS court for infringing upon freedom of speech with some of the clauses in its, Cyber Crimes Act. So this is a strong conversation, and one of the key things that Donald Trump said, he himself having been a victim of the states weaponizing, the Freedom of Speech Act against him, now wants to make sure that everybody can air their views, say whatever they want to say. He has talked about the fact that he is one of the, he's experienced the worst in all of, the United States history of presidency with regards to a lot of things. But that is good for the people of America. But what you also want to think about is in opening up the bandwidth, everything concerning communication and freedom of speech. I hope that Donald Trump is also ready for the backlash that he'll be getting on the heel of that, because freedom of speech also means that everybody who is not pro-Trump has freedom to air their views against him, against his government, against his policies. I do hope that he has the skin and the stomach for it also, and doesn't find, a way to tiptoe around the freedom of speech that he has also brought. But one of my key concerns about, his policies for his administration is him pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and he's looking to once again promote fossil fuel. This is a major concern because in the last couple of years the conversation has been let the world move to greener energy, and he says we are going to go back to digging, refining and exporting oil. What does that mean for the energy conversation, especially that poorer nations of the world, such as ours and most nations in Africa, are the ones bearing the brunt of this, energy impact and exploration of oil, as it were, especially when we're looking at gas flaring and the like. So this is something that I'm not sure works in the best interest of the rest of the world. Neither do I think it works in the best interest of the United States, as it were. They will make money, no doubt, but let's look at the cons of having a greener energy.
Well, you're going to look at the concerns of other world leaders and if they're even ready to engage with the Trump administration, and if they have the power to engage the Trump administration. He stated it categorically. The one of the major focus of Trump is to tax other countries to enrich America.
External taxation.
So it is also going to be left in the hands of the other country to look at what they can do and how they can engage. Remember the conversation with Mexico and the surrounding nations with America. But I'm looking at the projections. If you're looking at the top 5 countries of the world who are contributing significantly to the damage done to nature, the U.S. comes as number one outside of China. Now you're looking at over 5,057 million metric tons of total carbon dioxide emissions coming out of the U.S. That's above that. That data dates back to 2022. It was more than that in 2023 and 2024. Now, of course, you're also looking at the fact that U.S. President Donald Trump has said, no, we are going to put an end to electric cars, electric vehicles, and going back all the way to fuel. So which means these numbers that we already have is going to more than double, if not triple, as the case may be. And of course, you're also looking at the fact that the U.S. is heavily dependent on the transportation sector, which of course also burn, petroleum products from ships, trucks, trains, planes, and all of the things that you can think of within the sector. So what are the other countries of the world planning for? Because it comes down to engagement by world leaders. Trump has made his statement. He has made his policy direction known. I'm going to tax you guys to enrich my nation. So it is now left for you to also look at how you're going to prevent your nation from being taxed.
How you can
How
leverage.
you can also leverage on whatever you can tax and bring the money out from the U.S. to also enrich your nation. At the end of the day, it's a rat race. At the end of the day, it's a political maneuver. At the end of the day, it's a power tussle. It's a mind game and a policy game that world leaders will have to sit up. It's just like the tax conversation we're having in Nigeria. You just need to know the basic rules, the nitty-gritties of what the provisions are, and how you can think around to have something for your region. That is where the world leaders are being challenged at this point in time. Donald Trump is coming and he wants to enrich America using the world's funds. What are the other world leaders going to do to ensure that they are not shortchanged by America, led by President Donald Trump? That is on one end. Then the second part of it, after all of these emissions, you are now ready to also contribute to salvaging the planet. That's the height of insensitivity. If we take our mind back to the last concluded COP29, we're talking about the fact that the amount of money donated by different countries of the world was not commensurate with the number or the volume of carbon dioxide that they emit or the level of damage they contribute. So the poorer countries, the developing countries, get to bear the brunt of what the industrialized and the established countries are doing, but they're not also willing to set the template. They're not also willing to make the investment that will help change the narrative. I think this is where people from other countries of the world or from other regions will say, you know what, some of us are blessed that in our country we don't get to feel the natural disasters associated with climate change. We don't get to feel as much impact as some other parts of the world. But it does not change the narrative. It is the height of insensitivity on the part of a leader like Donald Trump to sit down and make policies that will not allow his country, who, by the way, happens to be the second largest contributor to the damage done to Mother Nature, do not want to contribute to changing the narrative in an attempt to even heal some part of the nature.
Well, that's 4 years running. That's something we're going to see for 4 years, because another thing we will experience, just as it has been done with the miracle window, where you're seeing he's reversing what was reversed, right? We may see some of his policies reversed after his tenure is over. And I think that the greenhouse policy and initiative would be one of such, depending on who succeeds him as president after 4 years. But we need to have, these are the kinds of conversations that you want expert opinion on. The world moving greenhouse-wise versus a United States pulling out of all of that conversation and taking out its funds also. Another thing you have to look at is when the United States pulls out most of its fundings for the activities that happen globally, how is the rest of the world ready to combat with this? This is, very important thing. Now, when he's talking about taxing the rest of the world to enrich Americans, he's looking at, tariff hikes in terms of imports and exports. So you send in something to the United States, your taxes are higher so that the United States earns for what you're exporting into their country, because the key clause that he has put in there is that he wants production to increase again in the United States. So two things: if they increase production in the United States, other nations now have to consider rerouting their export channel. Because one of the ways that he's going to build your nation is if you are exporting into America. But if you're not sending as much into America, then your charges will not be, it's not like he's going to come cap in hand or gun in hand and say, hey, you've got to bring a percentage of your money to the United States. He's just going to look at legal platforms from which other nations can be charged. But I think he also put a foot in the door when he said they're going to show up production. If you show up production and availability in your country, it reduces imports, which should also breach that tariff gate. But that there's a lot of things. So like you said, we talked about the oligarchy issue at the beginning of the day. He can't be trying to show up these things only for the rich. It would trickle down to everybody in the U.S. society as much as possible. But let's just wrap up with that particular speech and take all of, and then if you pay close attention also, you would also realize that President Trump threw around a lot of snide comments to catch whoever so pleased to catch it. So we'll just take some concluding policies and strong statements that the president released yesterday, most of which he has already appended his signature to.
Be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies. Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home, to their families. Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation, and right now our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken.
I think at the end of the day, we can all give a round of applause to President Donald Trump, but we must be true to ourselves that some of the policy directions that he has listed in his speech are going to be problematic in its execution, because of course there are going to be nations that get under the hit for some of these directions. I mean, looking at the Panama Canal that he says he's taking back, Panama is not going to take it lightly. China, who is predominantly using the Panama Canal, isn't also going to take it, just sneezing. So there's going to be a lot of tussle with some of the policies that he's decided. He's talking about renaming one of the Mexico walls and back to. But one of the things I appreciate about President Donald Trump, he's someone that is deeply rooted in the history of America and decides to honor the labors of presidents and people that contributed to the development of the nation. He's more like a John the Baptist of some sort, asking Americans not to forget who they are. But some of his policy directions are going to definitely be problematic. But we have seen that as opposed to his first time in government, that's in 2017, where in 1 week he signed 4 executive orders. He has signed 26 executive orders in less than 24 hours, returning back to the Oval Office, and that is magnanimously huge. I think the last time that someone signed as much executive orders was back somewhere in the 70s, So it's a huge trajectory that he's putting the nation on. I believe that this is what is called hitting the ground running, and because we are literally all hearing the stomp of his feet on the ground. Comparatively, if you want to compare the May 2023 inaugural speech of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and that of, President Donald Trump, I don't know what you can take home from this, but that is going to be yours to decide. But it looks like we're looking forward to a bright day, mostly a brighter day for the United States and the people who live there. But we must keep our fingers crossed for how lots of these policies, how it's going to affect the rest of the world. When we talk about how it's affecting the rest of the world, everything trickles down to Africa. How will it affect Africa at the end of the day? Remember, he also was crossed about the way the COVID-19 issue was managed by the WHO, which has also seen him pull out from there. When the United States pulls out from the WHO, we're going to be having lots and lots of funding issues across other conversations. But Donald Trump is in office, 26 executive orders down day one. We're going to see a move to implement, and let's all just, wish America the best and wish him the best as the rest of the world. Like we continue to say, nations are doing things for and in their own best interest. World leaders in other parts of the nations must begin to do same. Of course, that's Elon Musk on his way to give his own speech. Remember, he's one of the cardinal cabinet members for Donald Trump, and he was all being excited with the victory dance move right there. But it's a great day. I would have said it's a great day to be an American, but I'm in Nigeria. It's a great day for most Americans to be Americans, and those who are legally in the nation, the president is solidly behind them. But congratulations to the United States of America and President Donald Trump.
Well, I'm worried. As much as it's a great day for those who are in support of Donald Trump, and even those who are not in support, but I agree with some of the policy direction that is going. Particularly worried about his comment about maintaining keeping America out of being involved in wars, and some of the policy statement he has made, because we know China, for one, is not going to lie down taking the bullets. They're definitely going to want to fight back, and every other country, no country is definitely going to sit and watch things go awry for them and then not take action. But we wish
But
President
I
Donald
think
Trump
most of the
best.
conversations will actually be boardroom tussles as opposed to landing with rifles and the rest.
But
when
when
you're talking
that
about
fails, what happens?
Yeah, but we believe. I mean, Donald Trump is highly diplomatic, so let's expect. You know that you have to take your mind back to his administration in 2017. He's not someone that readily likes to go to war. That's not the body language of a Donald Trump. So we are going to see high-level negotiations on the table. It's going to be a tug of war in the boardrooms first. And if that doesn't work out, hopefully he can find another way. But like he has said, the victories for the United States will not only be with the battles won, it will not be with the wars that they fight. He's also making room for possibilities of war. But he's talking about the wars that will never get to be fought. The world is expecting a lot of peace under his administration, and that's something we could absolutely hope for. But at this point, we'll draw it close on Tuesday International on Rise and Shine, and we'll head straight to the front pages of the national dailies.
I'm looking forward.
Rise and shine.
On Daily Spotlight, we're starting out with the front page of the Nation newspaper. On the front page of the Nation, Adon says how Tinubu is stabilizing economy, reducing poverty. Of course, we see President has an agenda for $1 trillion country, minister to intensify diversification. Innovation will yield long-term benefits. Still on the front page of the Nation, court condemns media trial, denies EFCC arrest warrant, requires says Otudeco orders not properly served. Subscribers kick as NTC OK's 50% tariff hike for telcos. And those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Now move to Nigerian Tribune. The masthead here reads, Solid Minerals. NAS doubts federal government's commitment to diversify economy. National Assembly is the one that is doubting federal government's commitment to diversify economy. We are in a good day. Someone's finance budget ministers budget DG. Ministry of Solid Minerals budget defense deferred. That's a page 3 read. We also have here another Trump era begins. Potential impact on Nigeria. Oil, global trade, climate, gender, immigration. Those are key, sports. We also have here NCC OK's 50% telecoms tariff hike. Man found to be HIV positive after raping girl with sickle cell disease in Abuja. Really sad story there. Alleged 42.3 billion naira fraud. EFCC files 13-count charge against Otudeco. Others, and that's all we have on the Tribune.
The Vanguard newspaper is the next stop. Ahead of 2027, why opposition can upstage ruling parties. Still the conversation about politicizing in 2025. That's a page 14 read. Above the masthead, court condemns media trial, denies the FCC arrest warrant request, says Otudeco orders not properly saved. And then, of course, we head to the forum saying, I was saved by God to make America great again. That's according to President Trump. NCC approved 50% tariff raise for telecom operators. Those are the major stories on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
The Daily Times, reps advocate for more funding for MDAs, okay? We also have here tanker explosion. PDP blames tragedy on hardship. NIMET unveils 2025 seasonal climate prediction February 4th. That's all on the front page of Daily Times.
Last paper this morning will be the front page of the Punch newspaper. And the screaming headline there, 50% tariff hike. Nigerians may spend 6.74 trillion naira on calls. Telecoms groups insist hike should have been lower. threatened suit ahead of February implementation date. That's the page to read. Court condemns media trial, denies the FCC arrest warrant request, says Otudeco orders not properly served. I serve FBN with dedication and integrity. On Nasanya, I'll defend my reputation aggressively. Otudeco. Of course, the picture story of U.S. President Trump returns as 47th U.S. President, rejects transgender, illegal immigration. And those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Literally taking us to the end of Daily Spotlight. A lot of conversations we've brought you this morning. But all the best to America's President, Donald Trump, and the American people. And of course, to other countries and world leaders, it's time you rise up and think on your feet on how to engage President Donald Trump so you don't get to be shortchanged.
That's all. I think that's the perfect wrap up this morning. We wish everybody the best. Here we are in Nigeria. NAS is asking that they're not sure that the federal government is trying to diversify the economy. Well, it's their word against theirs. Thank you so much for being a part of Rise and Shine this Tuesday morning. We do hope that we can invest in the right course today. My name is Uyai Emem.
And I am Frank Cizadet. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Good morning.